Good morning, everybody. This is Christy. I am the Intimate Warrior. I thank you so much for stopping by, and as always, I send you love. Before I actually begin this video, I wanted to emphasize how I am feeling today in this very moment. Today is the 23rd of January, and of course I had to go and confirm that because time has meant nothing to me for a very long time. Today is the first day that I feel awesome. Awesome. That is the greatest word that I can use right now for this expression. Or I guess I could use connected. And at peace, centered, and loved. Now, knowing what we have been going through here, or parts of what we have been going through here these past several weeks, and I'm going to fill you in on a little bit more about the depth of what we have actually been going through. To feel this great, it's not really a surprise for me because we have to grow. We have to grow. We have to learn in our own growth. We have to have our experiences. And we have to understand what these experiences mean, what they are doing to us from within, and we have to choose our greatest self. In order, or the greatest emotion, and learn to let go of those terrible thoughts that are coming up from within. That is a part of a purification process from our past experiences that are now making its way into knowing, where we can choose to not be our past or our pain, and therefore learn who we truly are. Let's see. Our family, almost every single body in my family, developed what everyone in this reality now is calling COVID. I want to first say, please don't be afraid of COVID. COVID, or the coronavirus, is something that affects the crown. When we change, or the environment changes, meaning upgrades, we have to also move with the changes in the environment. When anything affects our crown, it will affect the entire body. Because the crown within the crown contains all the major nerves that connect to every single organ within our body, which connects to the blood, which connects to the DNA, everything. The corona is, or the corona radiata, is actually the illumination of the crown. And so I want you to understand, or give you kind of a reassurance, that even if you have gotten it already, or received a major upgrade and know that you have had a diagnosis of this, that it was the experience of an upgrade. And if you haven't and do, please don't be afraid of it. Now, in one of my videos here, throughout this past couple of this week, I expressed how I felt while having this major upgrade. I used the word I felt like I was dying, or words I felt like I was dying. Why did I use that? Because you have to, again, you personally, from within have to have an experience of death. And then, more than likely, you're going to have an experience in your reality that matches how you feel from within. Before Christmas, this was, week and a half, maybe 2 weeks prior to Christmas, the corona, the activation of the higher crown, and therefore body, hit our family. We didn't have a normal Christmas, and we definitely didn't get to see, or we didn't get to see our granddaughter. I didn't get to see my son, my granddaughter, for Christmas. So it was basically my household, and luckily or thankfully my mother and nephew was able to come and be with us. In that time frame, we have already been busy. We have already had major changes in Barb's health where, we really weren't expecting to be able to pull off Christmas. Or we weren't even sure that we could put together our granddaughter's a Christmas present, which was a playground set. As my husband worked hard there for the few days prior to Christmas, I was so shocked at us being able to, or especially him, being able to perform this miracle. Then for Christmas Day, we had a shrimp boil, whatever you call that thing. I cooked a turkey, I cooked a ham, the sides, within what we were going through. That day, Barb had slept pretty much all morning, which is why I was able to, clean the house, get the meals going, and help my husband, whatever he needed to do. It was, in my perspective, a Christmas miracle. But we didn't have the family with us. My son, my granddaughter, and my granddaughter's mother were not present. So half of the family, wasn't here. And of course, especially not having our granddaughter to give her all her gifts and, see the light in her eyes, was very disappointing, I guess you can say. But so I got my major upgrade about, about a week later, maybe after Christmas. Yes, a week later, and so did pretty much everybody else. So even during the time frame of my my mother-in-law's transition into heaven, we were all dealing with major upgrades. It was rough. It was really rough. My father-in-law, who is elderly, at the same age of Barb, my mother-in-law, got very sick as well. We were like, okay, we know he has the COVID. His breathing seems a little off. He's lacking in tons of energy, unable to eat and drink, and had the fever. And we had to call the emergency room, or the ambulance to take him to the ER for us throughout this time frame, a few days after he, started to really sleep a lot. And they didn't do anything. They sent him home within a few hours, and we did our best to help him feel better. But our main focus was Barb at this time, and we still did our best with Pop, but our mind wasn't really in it as best as it could be because we were really exhausted. Anyway, if I fast forward here a few days, that weekend that my husband and I knew his mom was going to be transitioning really soon. In our hearts, we knew because we've been watching the signs. We didn't need the nurses or anybody to come out and tell us anything. Sorry about that. I received a phone call, and of course I forgot to turn down my volumes. But as I was trying to say there, that weekend we knew that my mother-in-law was transitioning back home. Let me begin with or explain that Barb has been connected with me spiritually in the spirit realm for the last couple of years, maybe 2 or 3 years. I don't know really actually when it began, but she has been talking to me in the spirit realm throughout her transition, coming to me and, trying to figure things out within her own life and seeking comfort from me. And she has, through God has allowed me to see her journey, our journey together, and her transition back home. Has it made it easier? No, because, time. There was never a time stamp on it, or this is when it's going to take place. This is what's going to happen. But I never knew when. So my mind never focused on the future. I always tried to stay present in what was going on. Our lives were so hectic anyway, there was no time to think about the future. But that weekend, with Barb communicating with me consistently, or not consistently, but very often. The one night, I forget the night, I guess it was Thursday night, as I was trying to go to sleep, stressfully trying to go to sleep, I shot up, and I was like, oh my gosh, Joe. I don't think Pop has been taking his diabetes medication. We all have been so sick and so busy, sick or upgrading, and so busy with what Barb was going through with her transition back home into the spirit realm, or into her pure spirit form, that we failed to recognize a lot of things when it came to Pop, my husband's dad. And so the next morning, as Pop wasn't doing well again, he was almost incoherent. He didn't understand what we were talking about. I was like, we have to get him. We have to call. And so thankfully we did call. And he's been at the hospital ever since. So he didn't see, or he wasn't actually present for his wife's way back home. He spoke with her about 5 minutes, I think a few days prior to her transition, or her way back home, and he didn't have enough strength to even sit up and talk to her then, so it was a small amount of time. But, so that's been a sad part of also what we are going through, that my husband's dad has been away from home, and we haven't even told him because, one, it's inappropriate to tell someone in the hospital, and because of COVID, no one's allowed in to see him anyway. And they did tell my husband that he could go in to tell him the news, but he'd have to leave. Well, that's very insensitive. And besides, we wanted him to be healthy enough. His heart needed to be healthy because he wasn't receiving a lot of oxygen, so his heart rate was, really low. His blood pressure was low. Oxygen levels were low at the time, so we wanted to make sure that he was strong enough to hear the news. Although we know in our hearts, he already knows. We haven't had that conversation and want him home. And now another terrible thing about this situation is that Monday, after not even an hour after Barb had been transported to the funeral home, the hospice equipment company showed up to pick up everything. So Pop is going to come home, not to his wife being gone, but the room won't have her bed either. I was very upset. I'm not going to lie. I was very upset when they came here. And I made it known. But I understood that it's not this person's fault who's here to pick up the equipment. They ended up getting a message from the nurse who I really didn't feel a great connection with, that did come here from time to time. Ended up telling them that we wanted everything gone immediately, which of course we didn't. So we have that to deal with. We have Pop, who's not home, to deal with, and my husband's mom, who is gone. And it was everything at one time. And other junk has happened in between that we have to deal with. And this Monday, I want to tell you about this part here. And not everybody is going to admit that they have made mistakes. Not everybody will. Not everybody will apologize for the mistakes that they have. And but I love telling my stories because it shows who I really am. And again, of course, it is to give you guys a different perspective on how to handle things in your life, quite possibly. Monday, I thought I was going to handle this transition or this experience better because God has shown me lots of it. I was very surprised at how I was beginning to feel. I became angry. I became anxious. And I felt an emotion that I haven't felt in a long time. Loneliness. And I began my husband was very busy. He had to call people, family, friends, lots of things. And so he was not in the house. He was outside where he feels more comfortable at, where him and his dad has always spent, and his mom as well, have always spent lots of time out in the shop or man cave, woman cave, whatever you want to call it, where they listen to music and stuff like that out there. And so I understood what he had to do. But that gave me time to think. Or that gave my ego time to think and remind me, to aggravate me. And so I sat here because it's been the first time that I have had nothing to do. Nothing to do. Not take care of Barb, not take care of my family, not take care of my granddaughter, not have errands to do. Absolutely nothing. Not have bills to do. Nothing was being done that I normally had to do. And so I thought, and these things were coming up. And it reminded me of how I felt for a good portion of my marriage. Loneliness. And I got mad that Barb left me because her and I have been together for so long. So long. For 7+ years. I took care of their finances, the errands, responsibilities, and it increased. And then when she no longer could go places because of weakness or incontinence, whatever reasons were, we were stuck here in this house together. Always. And not having her here reminded me of my past. And that's something that I had to really deal with or purify myself with. Because, again, in order to know who you are or to become complete, in my instance, you have to feel empty. In order to be reborn, you have to have an experience of death from within. And that's what was happening. And I was stewing for an X amount of hours. My husband came back in, whatever time it was, and was talking, and then he noticed I wasn't right. And he asked me, "Are you okay?" And I really tried to calm myself down before I knew he was coming in. Breathing, slow breaths in and out. Christy, you're feeling this because, whatever reason, you're past. This is not who you really are. You know this isn't about a personal attack on you. And I have done extremely well within these past 4 years of my awakening process in understanding that however I felt from within was about me. And I did my best to not project it or attack others. Yeah, I've had moments, many moments within my process here of lashing out. But I've also come back with an apology, because that's acknowledgement of a mistake, of sorrow, of an experience, and of love, an expression of who you truly are, not what you are hiding from within. So as he really asked me that question, I lost it. I lost it. And I knew it may have seemed selfish. You know, my husband is experiencing a great loss of his mom, something I have not gone through personally yet. I know in time I will. I knew that his experience is probably more difficult than what I am going through. You know, but again, our experiences have been completely different. This is his mom, and this was my mother-in-law that my hands have been on. I have cared for a woman throughout her entire turmoil. And although he has been a part of it, again, the experience is different, yet it is the same. You know, so I had the moment of really having to deal with loneliness. But in that realization of, I had lots of loneliness for, I guess it would have been 16, 17 years prior to my awakening process. We will be married 20 years this year. So I guess you can say 16 years, where I really felt lonely. Loneliness in a marriage. Because I didn't understand experiences, and of course I was going through my immobility, and my health was extremely bad. I was obese, I was depressed, every single thing because of my auto accident. I was dealing with things alone. Yes, I have been alone. I have been alone in my awakening process. In the beginning, I wanted to share my awakening process, but something clicked quickly. This is your experience only. Others will not understand what you're going through. Even those who are waking up and are going through their ascension process, well, we all really are. It's just either we know it or we don't. Our experiences are still going to be different. And how we understand it is still going to be different. But we all are going to go through the ascension process. The process, the levels, everything is the same. but the lessons and the understanding, the wisdom given will be completely different. And so I stopped. I've spoken with my mom, who tries her hardest to understand and believes everything that I'm going through. But still, I have stopped. Unless she asks me. Because again, you have to actually go through the experience to understand the experience. And this life is our own. But I knew I had to deal with loneliness. Although it may have been the wrong time for me to express what I was going through, it was also the right time. Had I waited for 2 weeks, a month, my husband could not understand, would not be able to understand, because the time has moved forward, or moved on, where, lots of times when we're having an experience, unless we deal with it in that very moment, we forget how it really felt, therefore we can't understand somebody else's perspective. And so I expressed it. And my husband graciously accepted it. I apologized. And I have had several incidences within this past week that, of course, deals with the loss of my mother-in-law that has come up for me to deal with. Although I'm not really open about the ascension process to my husband, because he's not there yet. I'm not pressing that belief until readiness is present. We are very open with each other. I have learned to be very honest with how I am feeling. And I know that if it hurts him, or if he lashes out, it's because of something in his past. And if I do the same, it's because of my own past. It's nothing to be taken personally, and we're not meaning to attack each other. It's just honesty in emotions, so that you guys can understand each other, or we can understand each other, and open up further into love. And that's what has been taking place, especially with us, and I am so grateful for. And so the point of this end story here is there's a difference between being alone and feeling lonely. When we feel lonely, there is truly a deeper disconnection within yourself. The unknowing of self. The disconnection between a higher source as well. And it is the process of deep healing that makes you understand who you are, and therefore who you want to become. In order to know the soul, to truly embody the soul through the solar light, Christ light, the Christ Luciferian light, or phosphorus, which every single person contains. It is only when we are full of ego that the phosphorus does not glow, does not shine, does not produce the light that rises and allows the risen one, the soul, the spirit, to exist and behave properly. We have to erase, remove every single thing that is so dense and so heavy. Dealing with it, we have to face it. And again, in order to face it, we have to have an experience. And the experiences are going to reflect what's taking place within. The death is. And so if you were to read Isaiah 14, 12 through 15, and I have lost my place in this video because I had to pause once again. And so I hope I am continuing on according to what I was previously expressing. But if not, just please continue listening and I will hopefully make sense once again. I'm just going to read a brief beginning portion here. It is, and it expresses, "How art thou fallen from heaven, O glorified one, son of the morning." And if you continue reading it on your own, and towards the end there it says, "Yet thou shalt be brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit." It is describing Lucifer. We all contain the Luciferian light, except because if you read the Bible and understand the Bible, it's talking about the fallen one. Lucifer was the angel, or Satan was the angel that fell. Now, when this Luciferian light is not actually glowing with phosphorus, the containment of phosphorus and Christ Luciferian light, it means that you are now the dark one, or better known as Satan. We have to truly transmute those energies and allow those energies to fully mix into their purified self, where the light can be absorbed, the soul and the spirit is manifested. So our thoughts, our words, and our actions must become in alignment with each other. They must completely match. And that is what the true mixing of the elements is really about. What you want to become or think is the purest part of all existence. Your thoughts, your words, and your actions must match. So Satan is within all of us, and a Lucifer, that is when the Luciferian light, or the Christus Luciferian light, does not shine. And so I hope this video makes sense. And it, when we are not truly shining, it is because the ego is still intact. When we are acting on lust, anger, greed, envy, gluttony, pride, laziness, and etc. And we're not learning to become love, as in the love of the purest sense. So again, please, I apologize for pauses or losing my way throughout this video. I'm still trying to really manage my time, but I wanted to definitely take the time today as a result of feeling more connected again, and definitely more loved and appreciated and very grateful, and share, of course, my experience with you guys and a bit of wisdom. This is Christy. Much love, health, and healing your way. I am bringing purpose to your life. Take care.